Welcome to the Emblazers show, where B2B leaders are igniting revenue. I'm your host, Abby Kerr, here to give a little intro to today's episode with Tim Riesterer and our guest, Michael Colonnese, CEO of SV Academy. Now, SV Academy was recently named the #2 most innovative education program by Fast Company. Michael's company is transforming how sales and customer success talent is trained and hired, connecting thousands of diverse, pre-trained candidates to roles at more than 400 partner companies, all with no fees to employers. Before SV Academy, Michael served as COO of Always Hired Sales Bootcamp and was the founder of Work America. He's a passionate advocate for education reform, an avid traveler with over 60 countries under his belt, and a dedicated CrossFit athlete. Let's listen to Michael and Tim right now.
All right, folks. I'm excited about today's guest on the Emblazers show. I've become enamored with the work being done at SV Academy since I met Michael, and I'm going to give him a chance to tell you the story of the Academy. But I just love the idea of how they're giving young people or entry-level people a shot at sales, and then doing it in such a way that they're helping the companies who hire these folks sort of de-risk that. We all know sales can be one of those environments, Michael, where hiring new people and especially into early entry-level SDR, BDR types of environments can be challenging for a variety of reasons and be filled with a lot of turnover. And you're helping it both from the student side and the company side. I don't think I've seen this model anywhere. I'd love you to first explain that to our audience so they get context, and then we'll sort of dig into it from there. So welcome to the Emblazers, Michael. Tell us a little bit about SV Academy.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here and just the opportunity to be able to speak about us a little bit and what we're up to. SV Academy has been around for several years now, since 2017. Ultimately, what we were looking to do is we recognized that colleges and universities at the time didn't really have sales programs. So marketing and finance and accounting, but a third of business majors are going to wind up in a sales or customer facing role at some point. So it was time for sales boot camps to arise. So we created a program that was designed to help people break into the sales space, give them the very basic training that they needed and get them prepared. Over time, we created what we now call the residency model. Goal here is to blend higher education and employment, bring people together to make sure that, number one, we're eliminating student debt by changing up the business model entirely, and then ultimately ensuring that you graduate with a job instead of a piece of paper. So from a student's perspective, eliminating that debt, never charging students tuition. There are no ISAs, not sharing income at all. And then from an employer's perspective is, how do we do it in a way where it doesn't touch your budget? So we've been at this now for quite some time, working with companies as large as Fortune 50 companies all the way down to small startups.
It's fascinating, again, like I said, from both the company's perspective and the student's perspective. And yeah, before anybody goes, oh, I've heard of sales boot camps before. I don't think you've heard of one like this. Sales boot camps in the past would have been like, hey, so I have a daughter who's a music theater major, and she's now an SDR. She didn't go through your program. I'm like, maybe we should just funnel her through there. But she has a non-traditional background. And I love how you said, like, a lot of people are going to end up in sales. I think that's very true. And if we all read Dan Pink's book, To Sell is Human, we are all in sales. But some people are going to get there professionally. And so sales boot camps make sense, and people have heard of those. But this idea, this model where the student isn't like paying up front and then hoping to get placed is really distinct. So I'd love you to just take one more level deeper to explain exactly how this works so that folks understand just how unique this proposition is.
Absolutely. Just by eliminating the tuition portion. So if you don't have a savings, if you don't come from a family of money, if you don't have the credit score to get a loan to go to school, you're really limited on what you can do in terms of bettering your life and breaking into the space. So by eliminating that, we open the aperture of who can actually get into the program. And then what we're really looking for is the soft skill sets. What is going to make somebody really good at sales? People get accepted into the program. We match them with an employer before they even start the program. They go through 36 hours with live instructor-led training with up to 50 hours of async work. It occurs during the 2-week period. So typically when they're putting in their 2 weeks notice, it allows employers to quickly make their hires, get them onboarded. But then also from the student's perspective, there's no downtime. As soon as you end that 2 weeks, you enter into what we call our 90-day residency. Now, during this period, you'll be working for our employer partner full-time, but you'll be on our payroll as a W-2. So you are what we call a resident. It's a little play out of the medical book. By the time you show up to a hospital, you're a full-blown doctor. You've had all the education and licensing that you need, but now there's this probationary period of mentorship to prove that you can be a doctor on your own. We just brought that to sales and customer success. So for the next 90 days, you work for the employer full-time, earning your full-time position with ongoing training and mentorship and coaching. We check in with the managers, keep scorecards of all of our candidates. If they need help at all, we'll spin up custom training at no cost. And then ultimately at the end of 90 days, they convert over to the employer's payroll with no conversion fees, no recruiting fees whatsoever. So from a business model perspective, the way we monetize is the employer reallocates their FTE budget for that first 90 days over to us as a vendor. We pass through a portion as a stipend to our residents. So we are now the only school that pays our students to get an education, on-the-job experience, and ultimately the job at the end of the program there.
Yeah, those of you who listened intently to every bit of that, you can see why I was enamored with all of it, even just in terms of the opportunity for people to get this skill and get placed, despite whatever circumstance they're coming from. Are there numbers for this? Like how many of your folks, like the ones who get in the residency 90 days, what's the stick rate? I guess you would be a way to ask it.
Love that. We have over 93% conversion rate. Turns out a little bit of training, getting you best in practice by industry leaders is enough to really get your foot in the door and make sure you show up on day one and really succeed. And having that personal mentor, one of the things we find, especially for entry-level roles all across the spectrum, when you show up, sometimes you just don't want your manager to know that you may not know the answer to everything. So they don't ask questions and you end up making mistakes. Well, having a mentor provide you those that backbone, that support, it really helps people onboard very quickly and make sure that they don't make those mistakes and ramp faster. So we've been able to show our candidates actually ramp 30% faster than if you were to hire on your own. And we've even been able to show that we can increase tenures. We did a full case study with a company, 54 placements with them. They did their own set, and they said that our candidates brought their first-year retention rate from a 41% to an 88%. So it works.
Yeah. You doubled retention, and you said that ramp is faster, 30% faster, so people are getting
30%
to goal faster, and your sticking rate was 93%. So all of those things have taken what I feel is like a position that's super volatile at most companies and kind of made it a little more predictable and manageable. Would that be saying too much, or would you say that's accurate?
No, you nailed it. Gartner had a whole report about this saying that the first 90 days, the most volatile period, there's about a 30% industry average in turnover in that first 90 days for entry-level sales folks. And again, we've got 93% conversion rate. So we're crushing that number.
And you said on the sales side and on the CS side. So I think this is really interesting. I mean, CS isn't news anymore, but it's been around a few years. But it's similar, I think, in terms of the hiring profile and the job that people are going to do. It's sort of like high volume. We expect you to touch a lot of people and to do it well. How is that? Is that model worked equally as well? So, did you start with that, or did you add that later? How did you?
We
decide
added that later.
Okay. And
Started with
why
sales.
was it? Yeah. What did you see that caused you to go, hey, wait, this is another position we could do this model, apply this model to?
Well, what we found is that a lot of the same soft skill related, you have to be customer driven, people focused. Those are a lot of the same similar qualities in an individual. And then, of course, a lot of the same tech stack as well. So We want to make sure, you never hire an accountant on day one that doesn't know debits and credits, but for some odd reason, we'll hire a salesperson or CS person that doesn't know what a CRM is. So we want to make sure that they have those types of skills. And a lot of them have a lot of crossover there. So worked out perfectly and was the logical next step.
What if your next big revenue move didn't come from a blog post or a cold LinkedIn scroll, but from a real conversation with leaders who've been there?
As the world of sales is constantly evolving and constantly changing, I think it's even more critical to get together with people to understand how are they helping to solve some of the problems that our buyers have today.
Meet Emblaze, a community of sharp B2B minds, CROs, CSOs, rising stars, sharing what's actually working in sales, enablement, and customer growth.
We always find a lot of value in the partnerships that we're able to form with some of the other great organizations that are part of the team here. And personally, I love the opportunity to connect with my peer group outside of other organizations and learn from them and try to figure out if there's things that they're doing that we can pull into our organization and benefit from.
Join a monthly forum, dig into science-backed strategy, and get insight you won't find in your feed. Start your Emblaze journey today at emblazgrowth.com.
So we talked about the types of people who are good candidates for this, and we joked a little bit about my daughter and her background in musical theater. There are probably other interesting backgrounds or experiences or origin stories that your best students, recruits, and then placements come from. And we talked about just how great your program is for those who don't have the means necessarily. But if how should I be thinking about this if I'm looking for a new career and I think sales might be a career? What in my background would make me a good candidate in terms of the success rates that you've seen?
Yeah, well, first, good news is the schools are starting to get sales programs out there. I think the last report said about 4% of higher education institutions now have some form of sales related program. They're phenomenal. Graduating with a degree in sales, fantastic. Put it up on your wall. Now come to SV Academy and we'll help get you connected to an employer. So those are obviously great candidates because they do have training. We'll just give them a little bit more specific training during that 2-week period for the company that they're about to go work for. Beyond that, former teachers are our number one segment. We see so many folks coming from the teaching space. They have the interpersonal skill sets. They know how to work with people, especially young and unruly people. So they know how to work with a customer. From there, retail, hospitality, fitness instructors, phenomenal. Of course, military, everyone wants to hire a vet. So anybody with those types of soft skills, they're going to be great in this position.
So I'm not going to tell any of the customers that you describe them as, middle school or high school students, in terms of their behavior. But I think that's awesome. I love that sense of on both sides, like even as a hiring company. And when I hear the types of backgrounds and the caliber of people that you're talking about, especially like when you do 4% of colleges, what I understand, there's about 160 degree programs out there. And I don't know, they put out a couple dozen kids a year. There's way more demand than that. So, you guys are filling a niche, and funneling more people through this opportunity. And, so talk to me a little bit now on the company side. We talked about some of the data that's really important, but when a company really catches on to this, what are they getting most excited about? Do they have to have sort of a certain missional vision as well, or like, hey, this is just good, smart business? What drives a company to sign up to be part of your program?
Well, we love a company that's mission driven, but the truth is we can work with anybody. You look from the very large corporations, the reasons why they tend to buy and work with us is very different than the smaller startups. So if you think about the very small companies, SMBs, mid-market size, sometimes they don't have onboarding, they don't have enablement, they may not even have recruiters, or the recruiters are inundated with all different types of roles. So we really help to be their partner there. We don't touch their budget, which is a very key thing. So we make sure that we help support them in getting them just very short list of highly, highly potential folks. We always look for potential, not perfection in our candidates. We always refer to them as uncut gems. The purpose is we're going to polish them up in our training and they become diamonds on day one with you. But from the larger organizations, one of the big things that we found is, well, they have very established onboarding methods. They have large recruiting teams. What we really do is help de-risk that hiring for them. Because we are a partner that they sit on our payroll as a W-2 for that first 90 days, it allows you to make sure you made that right choice and get the right candidate and ensure that they ramp quickly there. If they don't, sometimes you have to put them on a PIP. It goes through a long process, can get very expensive and high turnover costs. And with us, if somebody's not working out, you let us know. We'll take care of all HR and payroll related issues, and you only pay for the hours that they actually work for you. So every company has something that's slightly different, but we can support with any company across the spectrum there.
Yeah, and I hadn't even really thought of that dynamic of if someone gets on your payroll for those first 90 days, like what are your HR requirements and how you handle that? But if they stay on your payroll during that time frame, how that might just minimize that kind of difficulty for a company from that perspective. Well, there you go, like a range of potential reasons that a company could think about a business model like this. Why don't the colleges put together such a program? Like it seems to me like they got to have more guts with their graduates. What I guess I'm really curious, like what got you over the hump on that, where you're like, you know what, we're going to continue to stick with this and see this all the way through this residency program, as opposed to, hey, we graduated them, hands clean, they got the diploma, good luck, God bless. It just, like, to me, you said, I'm going to absorb more risk than that. Like, talk to me about how you got there.
Yeah, well, this would be great for schools to get to this, because at the end of the day, when employers are trying to de-risk and partner with a company like ours, partnering with a staffing and recruiting firm may not be the best PR option, but now you're partnering with a school. So it really makes sense from that perspective. Higher ed sits in its silo over here. So you have your higher education institutions. Their level of innovation tends to be more curriculum focus, not business model focus. I think that's been the biggest disruption in the higher ed perspective. So if we can bridge that gap between higher education over here, companies and their hiring silos over here, blending the two together, I really think that this residency model should be something that's not just for sales and customer success. It should spread the gamut of all entry-level positions here. So I think that schools could really start to break into this, start building the relationships with employers and making sure that they tie their outcomes to the employers. You know, that's always crazy to me. I did a poll several years ago with 13 campuses. I polled the students to say, why are you here in school? 93% said that they're there to get a job. And for some odd reason, when you talk to the heads of schools, they say it's not our job to get people jobs. It's our job to get them an education. So from a sales perspective, it's you just don't know your customer. So what we want to do is make sure that we really work with both sides of the equation, tie our outcomes to theirs. Higher ed today could do this very easily. And believe it or not, I really think that they should. I think it'd be better for all of our students across the country here.
Yeah. And you talk about the opportunity and that CS and sales, they have good, solid entry-level type opportunities. And often the goal would be that, let's say, SDR, BDR on the sales side and some form of CS. And then when I think of CS evolving to become more commercially oriented, there's account management sorts of jobs. On the BDR, SDR side, there's account executive type jobs as you're trying to develop more new business, but take it full funnel. How does something like your program evolve in any of those cases where you can help companies with developing talent? You get them in the door, they're doing well, but do you help evolve them to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be a place of lifelong learning. So if you come to us, you graduate from our program, you are an alumni for life. We want to make sure that we're here for your next step. So day one of our program is telling you the different types of career pathways, whether it's vertical or horizontal. We want to be able to describe exactly what you're going to be doing day to day, and then figure out exactly what's going to be the best fit for you. So We've already created our upskilling program from SDR to account executive, where you get invited back in after usually we're between 9 and 18 months of real world experience in the role. Invite you to come back in, get upskilled to those closing skill sets, and then you go back to those employers as well. So we want to get ourselves to go a little bit more vertical, and then frankly, good strategic partners that have the upskilling programs, partner with them to make sure that they're continuously coming back.
Oh, it's all good stuff. I feel like, is this an FCC obligation or is it I don't know, but I have to ask about AI. I think I lose my podcaster license, and in the area of sales and CS and all that, there's just it goes without saying, AI is everywhere. Whenever I look at articles that talk about what AI is going to do to the sales and the commercial teams, there's definitely like, oh, it's going to be an excellent teammate. It's going to make you faster. It's going to make you more efficient, and you can work more opportunities. But there are many times where they say, and it's also going to perform these entry-level functions, the AI SDR, if you will. Where's SV Academy in terms of how you're equipping and enabling your teams to leverage AI, like learning that as part of their job? And then I would like to talk about, like, what are you thinking in terms of just where is AI relative to these entry-level roles? So how are you getting your students ready when they come out so that they can use tech as a teammate, and AI in particular? And then we'll deal with the other sort of inevitable question.
Yep. We always get this question, even from my own board members, always asking, what's happening in the market? Are these roles going to be replaced? You're seeing some of it attempted on the CS side. We saw this with the AI SDR as well, people attempting to create these. One of the things that we've noticed with the AI SDR is a lot of those companies have shifted from, we're going to replace your team, to, hey, we're going to help train your team. And they have been phenomenal with the training piece. We're actually going to be incorporating some of it into our own training as well. But at the end of the day, it's not replacing, it's supporting. I always like to think of AI as a force multiplier. Basically, what it's going to do is make your SDRs and your CS reps more efficient. So bring it in, embrace it. There are a lot of tools and tech stacks. We make sure that we have an entire segment within our training program to teach you some of the various AI tools that you should be using on a day-to-day basis. I think every sales tech stack across the sun is implementing AI in some way, shape, or form, but it's nothing to be afraid of. I think it's absolutely something that we should be embracing, but I also wouldn't worry about your jobs.
Yeah, I we've been in this business, and Blaze and Corporate Visions for a long time, and we train like 70,000 salespeople every year. And we get this question too all the time. And what we've been able to identify is that in considered purchase environments, buyers still want to buy from humans because they want to know somebody's going to take responsibility. But there's also so much information, and it's so overwhelming. They need somebody to kind of facilitate and guide the process. But the skills that we must as sellers hone, because they are the ones that matter to the buyer yet, are evolving, that we will leverage AI to do parts of our job, but those things in the interaction that we have with customers that make a difference to the buyer are evolving a bit because they're doing so much research in AI on using AI in their own. So what have you seen as sort of is there any skill shifting that you're seeing going on? Like, hey, this used to be important, but now this is more important, as you think about the buyer and the seller and how AI is taking over parts of that interaction.
Yeah, well, one of the big things that we're starting to see is the go-to-market engineer that's been popping up at every tech company under the sun. And so it really starts to broaden the spectrum of who can actually get into a more sales-related focus. So, traditionally we were talking about people that have the soft skill sets, the interpersonal relationships, former teachers in retail, hospitality, roles like that, but also technical folks now. This is their time to shine where they can actually break into this. So a lot of times they tend to be more focused on the tech side of the equation. Sometimes we'll be uncomfortable having conversations. And so I think schools should be embracing taking those people into your programs in training them up, because there's a very, very big opportunity for these go-to-market engineers that do require some technical skill sets. And of course, the more technical companies like cybersecurity and infrastructure, you're going to have some tech savvy side to the equation.
That's really interesting. The idea that having a proclivity or just a capacity to handle the tech, and then add the sales skill to it. And I don't know if I'm going to say this and it's out of turn or out of school to say it, but like, ironically, AI is taking over all these coding jobs. Like maybe there's going to be some tech people who are like, the safe place for me might be in sales, where I have a tech aptitude, but I need to polish my sales skills. So this idea of a go-to-market engineer, is that a title that's appearing at the companies you're talking to? Or tell me more about, literally, this is the first, I was today years old when I heard that phrase. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, we're seeing it pop up quite a bit. And for somebody from my standpoint, I am not technical. If you asked anybody on my team, I tapped out with Facebook. So anything that requires coding, it's way over my skill set. But even myself, I'm starting to break into learning tools like Lovable and Replit. They're absolutely phenomenal in building out platforms. It's been a lot of fun to learn that piece. But the go-to-market engineering, we're seeing this all across the tech sector today. Folks that are coming in to effectively help build out the internal go-to-market processes, making sure that all of your stacks are talking to each other. They're eliminating the busy work that you would see a sales or customer success person have to do. And that's the right type of way in terms of the framework of what I think you should be focusing on when you're looking for somebody with those technical skill sets. Leveraging AI, this is exactly where it's meant to be, to help make life easier for your sales reps so they spend more time talking to customers instead of having to upload data, building out the lead list, doing the outbounds. All of that stuff can be automated now and spend more time with who needs it most, which is your customers.
Well, so this has been great. Everything that I had heard, you and I had some conversations before this, and I just have become enamored with the model, even from the standpoint of, as a company who builds training content, figuring out ways to help out your teams and your alumni, and just be a part of cultivating this sales opportunity for all the folks that you guys serve. So I just want to say thanks, Michael, for doing that and having this vision. I know companies could be interested in what we talked about here, but I really saw this as such a missional way to think about helping people find meaningful careers, that I was just even moved by it. So thank you for that, Michael. Appreciate you being on the Emblazers and sharing this vision with us, and good luck to SV Academy in the future.
Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate you having me on today, and very much looking forward to all the good work that Emblazers and Corporate Visions is doing too.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. I know that there was content here for you today, or maybe somebody in your organization. And always at the Emblazers show, we're looking to create some revenue ideas that ignite. And this one's on fire.
That's all for today. Thanks again to Michael Colonnese and to Tim, and we will see you next time on the Emblazers show. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you soon.